Your story takes life because other people begin to share your story as their unique story because they have developed trust in your brand. And so it empowers your business to be more productive and give you more authority in your space.
I recently did some memoir and storytelling within the Windrush generation, and it was sharing these stories that have never been heard before. And I said it's so important to share these stories and document them so people can hear these stories far and wide.
And one of the organizations that have powerfully used stories, a lot of us know of it, is TED Talks. TED Talk has become a blooming and very expansive international universal entity because of how it allows people to tell their authentic and true stories.
Hi, I'm Obehi the author of the storytelling series for small businesses and content creators. In Obehi Podcast, we talk about the power of your story, your narrative, and why you should own your voice. Whether you are a small business owner, a content entrepreneur, or you simply want to build your influence, storytelling is probably going to be your best instrument to connect with your audience. So join the awakened few who are owning their voices. Now let's get started with today's episode. These rooms actually stem from a research that I did about the presence of Africans in northern Italy, from where I created a 5-part series on storytelling. Because what I understood, interviewing different hundreds of African diaspora, and of course, other people within our demography here, is that storytelling is powerful. It's extremely powerful. Actually, it's only now beginning to talk about it as a term. But before, I'd really been working with it, interviewing people. I've always done this for a very long time. But only recently, I've been looking at the how of it because I realized that after more than 10 years of intense research about the presence of Africans in northern Italy, to be specific, it is time that I also give back to the community in the sense of helping the people to understand how you can leverage storytelling in your business and in your content creation, if you're a content creator. Because those are the two main targets that I focus on a lot. But of course, I also focus on other areas. But these are the key target that I'm actually focused on at the moment. If you are in business, you must learn how to tap into the power of storytelling. And if you are building a community also, because we do need to build a strong community in the diaspora, it's also important that you understand the power that storytelling has. It have within it the power of life and death. In fact, yesterday, 2 days ago, I was interviewed in a podcast. Then I was saying something very simple that up until a time in Germany, for example, of course, most of you understand the story of the Second World War. After the First World War and before the Second World War, it take a bit of time. Those who felt they were cheated, like Adolf Hitler, for example, needed to create a lot of propaganda. But before he started this propaganda, let's say in the period of 1930 or to 1935 or something, the Jews in Germany were living with other people, other Germans. There was no problem with them. They were just pretty fine. They were getting married, they were eating, they were feasting together. They were working in many places. There was no problem. But somebody at the point, in the person of Hitler, managed to create a different image, a different narration, telling the Germans that these people that are living among you, they are your enemy. So he built an image of enemy among the people. And of course, we all know what happened, leading to the death of millions of Jews in Germany. So what I'm talking about is that storytelling can actually be used to build, to keep people, to malay people, but it can also be used to rescue people, to build a strong identity for a people. Of course, as African diaspora, we have it very close to us to understand. Look at the story of slavery, for example. Look at the story of continued exploitation of Africa. All these are based within stories that are being cooked out by people, and of course, other people are living according to the definition of those stories. And the consequences, of course, everybody is paying for it. So storytelling is absolutely very powerful. And within the African diaspora, it is something that we need to leverage and leverage very well. All right, having said that, I would like to introduce the first, no, not really introduce, I will call on Dr. Marsha. Please, could you introduce yourself? Say something about yourself, because later on you are going to be helping us to understand some of these dynamics. Please welcome, sister.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure being a part of this session. I am a strategic Christian leadership coach, trainer, and consultant, and I am an author, published author on leadership and storytelling. I tell stories, I have written stories, books, and I am also a principal of an institution in which I guide individuals to tell their stories. I have a business, Purposefully Commission, Motivate Me Too, in which I listen to the stories of leaders and help them to use their stories to overcome the challenges and struggles that they have as leaders, and more specifically, Christian leaders. I'm also a motivational speaker, and I am a mother, and I am a community builder.
Dear Tanya, thank you so much for joining us. You are one of the guests who is going to be helping us to understand storytelling today within the African diaspora, and of course within your area, because you are an expert in this area. Please let the audience know who you are.
Thank you very much for having me. So I'm Tanya. I'm from the UK. I am an award-winning publisher. I'm also an international speaker, and I help people to find their voice, pen their stories, and we publish their books. We have a team of editors, formatters, and cover designers to help your book come to life. And that is me and what I do. I'm also an author of 5 books, and they're all available on Amazon. And that's me in a nutshell.
All right, the non-share is good. We like that. All right, I can see familiar faces in the audience. Hannah, that is my friend. Thank you for joining us. Of course, today you are in the audience. If you want to say anything, please, you are always welcome. We love to hear your voice. Paulette, thank you for joining us. Lonnie, thank you so much for being here. I can see Mark Ambry. I didn't see the whole, but anyway, if I mispronounce it, please, apology. Victoria, I see Manuela. You are all welcome. You are welcome. You are welcome to the conversation. Sandra, of course, all the other people that are coming in, we welcome you all to join us. And of course, later on, if you want to say anything, you can always hop on and say something. We would like to hear from you. I want to remind us that this room is being recorded, so at least it can be available for those that are not here, who maybe for reason of time or for other circumstances, they cannot be here just now. So that is why we are recording this room for them. Then I also want to remind us that any of you that want to see the book series, they are available on Amazon. You can check them out. There are 5 books talking about how to use storytelling in your business and in what you are doing. All right. Now, the first question is going to go to you, Tanya. The importance of sharing personal story among African diaspora. Maybe you can say something about reflection and life lesson. What would you like to say about that? We are eager to learn from you.
Thank you. Yes, that's a great question. First, I want to say hi to Victoria, who's on. I just had a conversation with her, just met her for the first time, and I told her about this. She's in Nigeria and she's jumped on today. So thank you so much for being a part of this amazing conversation, Victoria. And welcome to everybody else. So yeah, there is so much importance and benefit of storytelling. The first thing that came to my mind when I was thinking about this was the cultural preservation. That is so important. Storytelling has been an instrumental part in preserving and transmitting cultural traditions, the values, histories across generation through the storytelling and being able to maintain their unique cultural identity. And it's really important to keep it alive. And the best way to do that is through the stories and getting them published, because your words will live on and they will outlive you. And that is so important. And also I say to my clients that you may not travel the world, but your books will. And isn't that just an amazing thing? And also, as well, it's about community. And you mentioned this before about community building. It strengthens the bonds and it can foster community cohesion between the African diaspora. So it brings people together, creating spaces, and it also creates a dialogue and conversations shared. I recently did some memoir and storytelling within the Windrush generation, and it was sharing these stories that have never been heard before. And I said it's so important to share these stories and document them so people can hear these stories far and wide. So it's a really powerful tool that carries so much immense benefits and impact. And we have a pivotal role in sharing our story so we can preserve culture and even nurturing identity. And it can even also promote healing. And one of the powerful things as well is about empowering individuals and building those communities and advocating for social change. And those are some of the benefits I feel that can impact when you're doing your story, sharing your story.
Thank you so much for that, Tanya. That is so straight to the point, and I really love that. Currently, I'm writing a biography about my eldest brother, of course, who's he represents actually my father because I lost my father. I was primary two. That is pretty early. But with me, I didn't really up to see a father. I never had a chance to be ask father, hey, come to my I'm graduated today, come around, or maybe able to respond to some of my questions about my curiosity about him, about his own father, about his own mother. So I didn't have that chance. So in 2024, I intend to write my autobiography. But before I can write my autobiography, I first of all want to write a biography about a man who sort of symbolized father for me and to my family. So as I'm writing this book, working on it, I'm sort of even having a kind of rhetoric questions like, what is the value for this book? Then I'm also providing answer to some of them. Like, now imagine somebody, say in about 100 years from now, 150 years from now, who's going to pick up this book and read. What are they going to learn about it? Then I begin to see a lot of value, huge value in being able to document our passes, our stories. You see, this is really, it's not like we are trying to we're trying to make people feel good by saying 10 stories, 10 stories. Storytelling is literally a way for you to tell the universe that you have been here. Because if you don't do it, nobody will know that you have been here. We can pick up books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, or maybe the Science of Getting Rich by Walter Waller. These are books that were written around the age of 1910. Up to date, we still remember these guys. We still remember the idea that they have. Because as human beings, we are going to decay, our bone will rot. All the food that you have been eating, they are going to be part of this earth. Which means your bone, where they are going to bury you, somebody will probably build a house there, or they will plant a tree there. But that idea that you have in your head, if you manage to record it in the common consciousness of the universe, nothing will ever touch it. Even though the word that is going to come after are going to be very sophisticated with high tech and the rest of it, your story is still going to remain. Because what is going to essentially happen is that they are going to transform the way that information is reserved, is consumed and passed on to the next generation. So if you don't write your story, you don't even have a chance of appearing there. So that leads me to the question I have for Dr. Marsha. Now, we are in the diaspora. We are hundreds of millions in the diaspora. So we really do have a power. And of course, we are looking at storytelling from that end. So what would you say are the ways storytelling can be used as a means of empowerment within the African diaspora community?
Again, I must say I'm thankful for being here and being able to add to the discussion. And I want to say Tanya raised a point that I hope I pronounce your name right, that we cannot ignore, and you also. Storytelling is a timeless communication tool.
Mm.
I believe that the wisdom of the ages has been preserved because it was handed down from generation to generation through our myths, our legends, our fables, our parables, our stories. And even if they are not written in a book, which is very, very important, it connects people across generations. And so, in that way, it has become a very important and powerful tool. because the resonance it creates not only taps into our identity and cultivate an understanding of who we are, but it also allows other people to say, that sounds like me. And that is the important effect and the empowering effect of telling stories. I find that there is a big thing about branding right out there now. And storytelling, a very good labeling narrative, can actually promote your brand. It can take it to places where persons begin or feel inspired to hear your stories and then have a passion for your brand. Now, as you tell your story takes life because other people begin to share your story as their unique story because they have developed trust in your brand. And so it empowers your business to be more productive and give you more authority in your space. It also, stories by themselves, if they are shared in a team, become integrated. And if you're a great listener in your organization, wherever you are, whether it is in a church or in a school or in a corporate space, you find that the more your team tell their story, is the more power it takes, and it can either break your institution or build your institution. Because if it is stories of discontent, then it might empower persons to take the wrong action. If it is a story that is harmonious, these set of integrated stories, then it can also eliminate discontent in that it now creates a new empowering space that aligns people, that builds energy, that motivates, and that fuels the determination to succeed. Now, it is a good thing when we seek to harvest stories, and that is how we put them in books and we have them live on long after we are gone. But the thing about stories that must be cannot be ignored is that stories provide a window for us to understand people's belief systems, their perspective at any given moment. And for that reason, it is important, especially in family settings, in church settings, and in organizations, that as we listen to their story, we listen intentionally. Because when there is an aligned culture within the organization and the stories that people tell are valued inside any organization, then there is a coherent message that we should never miss, because it is a powerful certainty to catapult your ideas and to understand the beliefs of people and to show empathy and understanding and to promote inclusion, because we now recognize and understand that we are engaging persons through their stories. We are making their beliefs and values take prominence, and it sets the stage for creation of new ideas, for acceptance, for people to feel safe in their space, for people to make mistakes, and to create so much culture that it propels your company and your business and your home and the culture that you have set. It propels it forward in the hearts and minds of people, and they want to continue to carry this torch that illuminates your vision and communicate the direction that you are going, and cements the personal stories and make them resonate universally. And one of the organizations that have powerfully used stories, a lot of us know of it, is TED Talks. TED Talk has become a blooming and very expansive international universal entity because of how it allows people to tell their authentic and true stories, and that resonate with others that are going through the same experience. And that is very important as an empowerment tool. It taps into our fundamental life when we tell our stories of overcoming fear through courage, getting up after rejection, trusting your intuition, learning from losing or winning against all odds, and so on and so on. There is a bulk that propels empowerment at different levels, spiritually, physically, and intellectually. And so we are able to unite and move forward and emerge stronger.
Thank you so much for that. That is a message that must be driven home. It must be driven home, particularly in the African diaspora, when we are looking at how we can build a community together, and able to prepare ourselves. That is absolutely very important. Thank you for that sharing, Dr. Marshall. Now, Tanya, I think that there are some people who believe that they don't have story to tell. Fortunately, I don't know why somebody could think that he or she doesn't have a story to tell. Looking at how many years you have been in existence, how many things you have done, looking at the history of your mother, looking at the history of your father, your grandparents, looking at the food that you like. There is nobody that don't have a story. In fact, in Obehi Podcast, we say everyone has a story to share. Let's even give it up that there are some people that don't have story to share. Now, what about the telling of the story of someone close to you, providing insight into his unique life journey? What would you say about that?
Okay, sorry. So, yeah, that's a very key question that people say, I don't have a story to share. And I look behind those words and I feel that people don't feel they have a story to share because they feel their story is insignificant. It's just a regular story. Who wants to hear that? Who's going to be impacted by it? And I'll give you some examples. Like myself, my first book was written in 2018 called Open Doors. And I share my story, and it's my mom's story I share at the beginning because it's so profound. She was 16 when she had me in the 70s, and that was a taboo at the time. And she was told to leave home. Boyfriend had left, but her beginning didn't have to be her end. She graduated at university and became a social worker. And that was about perseverance and pushing through. So we all have important stories to share. And some of my clients, they don't share their stories, but they share their mom's story. And it's all about inspiration and motivation. So if you feel that you don't have a story, and I like what you said before, everyone has a story to share. And I like what Dr. Marcia said as well about timeless communication tool. This is what storytelling is all about. And I do believe that when we share, and maybe you don't want to share your story, but you feel that the life of your mother or somebody significant to you was so empowering and impacting, you can share that story. And I always say, why do you want to share that? And like you was talking about, why am I sharing this story? It's about value. What lessons have I learned from it? And one of the key things is when you're sharing somebody else's story, it's about what inspires you about that person. What's motivational about that person? Because that's going to shine through in your book as you're writing, because other people's stories can be a source of inspiration and motivation to the readers. And you can share stories on resilience, success, personal growth. There's so many things that you can write about. And when you're looking at this person's life and looking at aspects of what you wanted to share, just like when I shared about my mom when she was 16, when she had me. And why did I want to share that? I wanted to let readers know that your beginning doesn't have to be your end, that whatever you want in life, it's possible. And she was 16 on the street with me. Imagine that. And then she had a dream inside of her that she wanted to become a social worker, and she did. And she was the first person in her family to graduate and become that. And also, we've mentioned about the connection and community. Sharing stories creates a sense of connection and community. It can highlight your shared experiences. It can highlight common struggles. It can also foster a sense of belonging amongst the readers or the audience that you're sharing it with. And you can find support when you're doing that as well. And then also when you're sharing other people's stories, about perspective and empathy, because when you're sharing stories of others, it can provide a different perspective and then fosters that empathy. And the audience or the readers will understand them, these diverse experiences and challenges and triumphs. And I always say it's about how you overcame, because you want that person, after they've read your book about somebody else's story, their life, it's possible for me. I can overcome. There is hope, and feel inspired and motivated that you interrupt somebody else's story when you're sharing somebody else's. And I think that is so powerful. So by sharing stories, you can enhance the richness and the diversity of the content. You can build that connection, empathy, inspire and motivate the audience. And then you can create a space for learning and growth. And that can then invoke and question and answers and deepen the impact of your message and build a stronger sense of community amongst the people that you're sharing it with.
Thank you so much for that, Tanya. All right, now looking at the audience here, there are a lot of people. I don't know. I don't want to believe that it's your first time of hearing about storytelling. I'm sort of curious about your story. What do you have to say about sharing your personal story or using story in your work, in your business, or in whichever way? It's essentially about building influence, about influencing the opinion or the behavior of other people. Now, if you are in a family, maybe you are a mother or you are a father, every day you tell story. Don't you remember? Maybe this morning, I don't know, this afternoon, you did not tell story to your wife or to your husband or to your children or to your mother of something like maybe what you ate, or maybe how you slept, or maybe what happened in your workplace, or maybe the dream that you have, or maybe the thing that you could do because of something or some other thing or many other things. So all these are stories. You are basically creating a frame of reference for people. You are telling them why certain things are the way they are or why they should not be the way they are. In any case, you are trying to either inform them by the story that you share, or you are trying to sort of influence their opinion in one way or the other. So there is none of us that is not actually telling story. And of course, again, I repeat, the storytelling we are talking about here is the intentional storytelling where you have a clear objective. And in this case, we can say you are in business, for example, you want to better connect the audience, you want to let them know the importance of that product you just created that is going to solve their problem. You want to help them understand why it is important, why they need to pay attention to you and to use that product. You are going to sell, you are going to use storytelling to sell. So that is really very important. So thank you for that sharing, Tanya. Now I'm moving back again to Dr. Marcia. Now we're talking of storytelling. We understand that you work with institutions that have to do with story, with building a community. That is really very important. Now, how can storytelling initiative, maybe within the African diaspora community, collaborate with national institutions?
Well, I want to, before I steep into that, add 2 points to the great points that Tanya raised. And one of that is your story, for it to be timeless, for it to be lasting, for it to be impactful, must focus on answering why. Why did I lose my father in third grade? Was it third grade you said? Why? What is the lessons that I learned? How did that groom me and build me to so I am still here? My mother did such a great thing. Why did she want to become a social worker? What was the and that in itself creates a magic in your story that is unique, yours, and gives you a sense of wonder that not only resonates with your heart, but it gives you hope, and it develops in you a mindset, as Tanya says, that if John did it in all of those circumstances, I am no different. And that is so important. As a person who operated and started my leadership journey in a disadvantaged rural setting, I was in a state of denial as I entered that space because I could not believe, because I was from a little sheltered background, so I could not believe that these were really conditions in which people operate. I was placed there. It was not by accident, because as a Christian, I believe that nothing just happens. But as I got there, I began to ask the why, and I was able to tell their stories as I described what it is like to operate in a disadvantaged rural school setting, and how children can achieve, and what are their greatest pains, and what are their strengths, because there were so many strengths. And one of the wonder that came out of there was the resilience of the parents and the children. And so when we are able to integrate storytelling into educational institutions, we give children an opportunity in a unique way to develop their understanding, respect, and appreciation for themselves and for other cultures. And we can, through this medium, promote a positive attitude to people from different spaces, lands, races, and religions, because children are pure in their minds and they come in with a sense of wonder and this uniqueness of learning. And so, storytelling can promote an intercultural understanding as well as your understanding of how you mediate your circumstances and your space. And one of the ways is that we can allow children to explore their own cultural roots, create opportunities in our educational institution for our children to hear the truth and to understand why they are created and who created them and what it means to have an assignment that is bigger than yourself. Allow children to also experience diverse cultures in this setting. Allow children and enable them through storytelling to empathize with unfamiliar people and places and situations. And also, storytelling gives them insights, explosive, comfortable insights into their different traditions and our values as a nation, as a people. And we also help children to understand how wisdom is common to all peoples and cultures, because wisdom in itself is not genetic. It is something that is built and developed through how we tell our stories and convince ourselves of our greatness. And a lot of educational institutions do not promote this type of development and empowerment in our children because we ourselves do not resonate with our culture, with our roots, with our stories. We live through and embody other people's stories and their representations and beliefs of us. When we incorporate storytelling into our educational institutions, we allow our children to become authentic enough not to apologize for who they are and why they were created. And that in itself is something that is missing from our institutions. We allow students to consider new ideas and not to fit into the mold that has been established for them. And it also reveals differences and commonalities that give children a choice. So they are able from an early age to be thinkers for themselves and not mirrors of other men's thoughts. I am very passionate about this and I could go on and on, but I'm going to pause here to give someone else an opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much. That is highly valuable, Dr. Masia. That is so valuable. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And we can also hear the passion listening to you. We can see that you are really into this, and that is really interesting. That is powerful. All right. I believe that learning. You want to say something?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a joy to listen to all of you this morning. I wanted to come in on a little bit different angle for those people who feel reluctant to share their story. Like, why would somebody want to hear my story? And so I would propose that they remember or think of, imagine even one person that they want to share a couple, three ideas that really were key points in their life. Even a memoir has a message. And so instead of saying, well, I'm not special, actually, the person that you want to reach needs to hear that story, that solution, that recovery. Think about the other people that you'll be serving, and it becomes much easier. It's always easier to help someone else, isn't it? We could see what's going on for them. And if you can remember that as you kind of twist your hands around, wring your hands and say, I don't know, but you do, and you have something to share. Think of one person. You're in an elevator, it's a 30-second ride. What would you like them to take away? What's most important in your life that you want passed down? keep that in mind, because in the end, it's really about them anyway. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm really enjoying the conversation. Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to say, like, some of the challenges that people have when it's sharing their stories is that they don't know what parts of their stories to share and what parts to leave out. And I really think it's important to know that it's okay for you to share your story from the dimension or the angle that you want to let people in on your story. Sharing your story doesn't mean that you have to share everything, because you might have maybe sensitive parts of your story. You might have parts that you're not so comfortable sharing. You might have parts that have to deal with other people in a way that maybe you're not comfortable talking about it, maybe for the sake of those people. So as long as that you're willing to share some parts in a way that it would add value or influence people or let them see the insights that you want them to see. So it's okay to share parts of your story in ways that you want people to see it. It's not a must that in sharing your stories that you must share every single detail. So there is that place of having that creativity, having that discernment when sharing your story. So if there is someone that they would love to share their stories, but they feel held back because it's like they don't think they can share the entirety of their stories, it's okay for them to start by sharing the parts that they are comfortable sharing.
Thank you so much for that. That is really valuable. Yeah, because we sometimes it's not everything that we are comfortable sharing, because yeah, we are human beings that we have several dynamics to our be to who we are. You basically tell the world how they should see you or how they should see the story that you are telling them. Okay, I understand that it's said storytelling. It appears very simple, but it's not really very simple as it were. But if you keep practicing it, you will certainly become a pro in it, because it is a skill that can be learned. Therefore, anyone can learn it. That's also why this 5-part book series out there, so that those who are just starting out, they can take it up and read. We started from very basic, the elementary. What is story? How is it set up? What are the emotion in it? What makes a story a story? What makes it work? Of course, with some example, preamble, and some instances that you can easily relate to. So if you are the one who likes storytelling, pick out some of these books and read. There are only 5. And of course, by the time you are done with them, you will find a lot of value about the use of storytelling in your work. All right. Dr.
This
Michelle.
is, this is Dr.
Yeah.
Michelle. My microphone was challenging a little earlier, so thank you for giving me the little bit of space here. Dr. Marcia and Victoria, both of you, and of course Tanya and Miss Lonnie Ray, each of you definitely spoke to my heart when you spoke about the importance of sharing one's story. But I wanted to add a little bit something extra, that if I can for a moment. I believe in the phrasing that Dr. Maya Angelou shared with us years and years ago, that I am a human being. Nothing that any human being dare try or even conceive of is alien to me. And when it comes to sharing one's story, or even the story of one's culture or of one's ancestry, or even a very fictional story that one has conceived of, I believe the importance of sharing our stories is because it makes us that much more human. It gives us the opportunity to demonstrate the things that many of our ancestors' experiences was denied, the ability to do anything more than share a narrative verbally and orally. And while there is so much value in our oral tradition, when we take it a step further and we write our stories down, as Dr. Marcia has said, we allow our stories to live long beyond we can actually live. And I think it's so important, especially if you use stories in the practice of your business, or in speech writing, or in just in, as Lonnie Ray said, in an elevator. If you're doing that, then you're actually taking the opportunity to share your humanity with somebody else, allowing that person to possibly even dispel some myths that they may have thought about you or your culture or your person, just by seeing you in person. Oftentimes people have a preconceived notion. And when you share a story, it shows a little bit of your humanity, but it also gives the opportunity to go ahead and dispel some myths. I am from the Caribbean region, the Bahamas to be specific, and I live in the wider Caribbean diaspora in the United States. And oftentimes, persons, when they see me in my profession as in technology, their preconceived notion is that I can give them a discount or know someone who can give them a discount on their next vacation to the Bahamas. And I often have to remind them that while I was born and raised in the Bahamas, and I'm proud to be Bahamian and of the Caribbean diaspora, it is important for you to recognize I work in technology, not a hotel. So if you need help with the hotel, you're going to have to go on booking.com or expedia.com or go to that hotel's website. And so by me sharing that a little bit of insight as to who I am and what it is that I do, that is where I came from. And I'm so proud to be Bahamian and of the Caribbean. This is who my truth is. And so for one little bit of opportunity, it gives me the chance to reclaim who I am in terms of dispelling the narrative that they have demonstrated. And as you said earlier, we can shape narratives even further. And I can say, listen, the next time you go to the Bahamas, you may not want to stay there. You may want to stay over there. So by sharing something of yourself through your storytelling, it allows you to live out your ancestors' wildest dreams. It allows you to go ahead and dispel some myths and to shape the narrative. And so this discussion, I believe, is beyond priceless. And I'm happy that you were recording it, because there are so many other persons that we can all share it with afterwards who may take away some nuggets of knowledge and help them in their story writing. And I definitely need to connect with Miss Tanya, because I do think I have a story that I'd like to be in print. So thank you.
Beautiful. I love that. In fact, all of us, we should all be connected that we are here. The actual reason why we are here is to learn from each other. This opportunity I usually say that the internet is a grid. All of us that are on it, we should be able to find our simile, people that are going to the same direction with us. Let's connect together. Let's enjoy this journey together. We are in a journey, you see. But when we are in a journey, we are not just looking for any person, because if you are in LA, you're going to Washington, you don't take just any flight. You are taking a specific flight that is going to the specific direction. So we need to connect, and let's benefit from each other's experience. And of course, yes, we are already connected. Let's connect more, because that is the only reason we are here. All right. Tanya, we are here with you again. Would you like to, because now I think people also want to see some case study and some strategies on how to do this, because you do that. Of course, I see Dr. Michelle already wanted to connect with you for something important. And we are happy. I'm looking to hear the good news. Stories for successful entrepreneur, business strategy, or case study.
Yes. So thank you, Dr. Michelle. Great to connect with you afterwards. And for anybody that wants to share their story, their business story or their coaching, whatever it is, you can just reach out to me, DM me, connect me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you. And I'm glad that this conversation is happening as well, because it is resonating with people, and this people do need to hear. So when I was thinking about business, I'm thinking about why people need to share their business stories, which is so key. And there are several reasons that I came up with as to why it's important. And one of them is about building connection and relatability. Because when you've started your business, some people would love to start a business. How did you start that business? And then you can share your journey. And as a lot of people have said today, it's about the why. Always think about why you're writing. You're not just writing it just because it's not going to make a greater impact in people's lives, but you're sharing the journey, because oftentimes we want the business. I used to be a lecturer, and then in 2018, I started my own business, and I was looking at, I want to start this business. I want to help people. I want to do all of this. And it was great. But we get the journey to the business. And what was that journey? I tell you, I had lots of challenges, lots of ups, lots of downs, lots of successes. And when people are reading that, then it makes you relatable. And as Dr. Michelle said, talking about that, you are a human being, because they look at you and think, wow, I'd love to aspire to that. But then when they read your story about the challenges, the ups and downs, and this can then foster trust and being authentic and building stronger bonds with your customers. And then also I mentioned before, it's so inspiring and motivating when you read other people's business stories. How did you get there? What did you need to do? And oftentimes they share, they only had so many cents in their bank account, or how many pounds, and they used to live in a 1-bedroom house, and Les Brown's story is so powerful, where, you know, him and his twin brother were found on an abandoned floor in a building, and look where he is today. And he shares his ups and his downs, and it builds that inspiration and motivation. And then also it builds brand identity and values, because you're defining your brand identity and communicating your core values as you are sharing your business story. And then you can convey the purpose and the mission that's driving your work. Why do you do what you do? And this is going to resonate with your customers who align with your values, and then building stronger connection. And also it's about customer understanding and trust. It's trusting and hearing what you are saying, because it provides insights into the needs, the challenges, the desires. And it's so important that it builds a deeper connection with your audience, and it differentiates your brand. It can inspire and motivate others, and you're communicating your brand values, and you can create engaging marketing content as well, which is key. And a book that I just want to share with you that was a powerful book. It's called The Wealth Choice: Success Secrets of Black Millionaires by Dennis Kimbro. And this book is a comprehensive guide to building wealth, focusing on the strategies and mindset. Mindset is key, because I believe it's 95% mindset of successful Black entrepreneurs. And Kimbro, he interviews over 100 Black millionaires to gain insight into their financial habits, their philosophies, and it's packed with so much practical advice and inspiring stories of where they were, and the middle bit, the journey, and to where they are now, which will give people hope and inspiration.
That is the power of storytelling. Again, I just want to remind all of us that this room is being recorded for the sake of those who are not here, so that they can have the advantages. We are also there for them. And for those of you who want to pick up the book, the 5-part series on storytelling, from where this room actually is coming, they're available on Amazon. Pick it up, read, and do share with us what has been part. So, Tanya, I want to thank you for that sharing. It is very important. And of course, like Dr. Michelle was also sharing before, story make us human. I don't know how powerful. I don't know how powerful that actually strike a chord in me. That is powerful. It really is powerful. Because now, as we are sharing our story, it does something also to the person that is listening to us. It sort of gives them the confidence to also share their story. Because it's like, now you are doing it, then I can also do it. And this is more important if the person that is telling the story is sort of like you. You see, that have an effect that we cannot even calculate. It's so important that it is important that we let people understand what is happening around us, particularly for those of us in the diaspora, because we have a lot of benefit by sharing our story. And when we share our story, we help others to also share their. Now, another story I would like to share with you, very brief, and of course, I'm going to give the room to other people to talk, was in 2010, I published a book that I titled "Under Development in Africa, My Hands Are Clean." So in presenting this book, I have to talk. So as I was talking, then there was a young girl that was there. The parents were of Nigerian, so it was an African community, mostly here in Verona, where I live. So the girl, having seen what I was doing, she said to her mother, she wanted to be a writer. So what does that mean? It means that she's being influenced, seeing something that she herself can also do. Why does she believe that? Because she sees me. I am like her. I'm just like another person on the street. If I can do it, then she can do it. So I am sort of inspiring her to take a bold step. Because I don't know if she has been able to do that today, but what is important is that we share our story. We give audacity to people to dare to also tell their story. So you see now, it is powerful that we continue to tell our story.
I want to make a point that stands out to me or came to me as Michelle spoke, Dr. Michelle spoke, and I find that cross-cultural interactions are really increasing in our spaces, whether it is in our daily lives and of course in our workplace. But the language barriers and the cultural differences in the communication tends to produce some misunderstanding. How does that play out with storytelling? I am using the example of the assumptions that people made with Dr. Michelle in relation to how they can benefit from her despite the fact that she's not a agent, she's not a travel agent, she does not book tickets and so on. But misunderstanding happens to me when a person is trying to apply a story of his or her native culture to people from another culture. And that misunderstanding is that we do not realize that our story might be interpreted differently because of who we are speaking to. So what we need to do, and I remember a story when Best Buy launched their business in China, I read somewhere, and they used words that they thought would mean the same in China. And so they call it Besime, but it meant that you must buy after thorough consideration. And so that business took some time to come off the ground because to the Chinese audience, it meant that they were to think carefully before they began to buy something from that store. And so what can I find can solve that problem is that in order to reach a mutual understanding, when we are telling our stories and to another culture, we may find it necessary to share our interpretation of that story so that the experience of excitement or happiness or sadness or sorrow or even disappointment can be interpreted in the right way by others. And the right way means that they are able to apply the story to themselves. This story, my story, can be applied to themselves in their context of how they experience sorrow and excitement or happiness or sadness. But it cannot be that if I'm sharing my story with someone that we are not able to give them an interpretation. This is what it meant for me, because it doesn't necessarily mean the same for someone else. And it doesn't make it wrong or right. It just provides some clarity and a reference point that can be expanded. Sometimes we give people shoes who have no feet.
That is powerful. I'm going to write that down. Thanks for the sharing, Dr. Basia. You see, a couple of days ago, I did a small video where I was saying that we are selfish. That means that when somebody is telling the story, it doesn't necessarily mean that they pay attention to your story for your story. They are paying attention for themselves. They are taking your story only as a pointer for their story. So that, like Dr. Mastia is just saying, your story is going to help people to reflect not about your life, but about their own life. That is about the connection. That your people should see themselves in your story, then that is a successful story. Because if you finish to tell story to a group of audience, say maybe a student or an audience of a crowd, I don't know, they cannot find themselves in the story, where that story is useless for them. But now, if the story is useless for them, how are you supposed to benefit from it? Say maybe this is a business story where you are pitching something, you are offering something, because they cannot come back to you because they don't see themselves in you. There is nothing that they can relate to you. So this is why, as a good storyteller, we must make sure that the reason for telling the story is not really us. Okay, yes, it is us, but it's not us. Okay, that might be a little bit complicated, but what I actually mean is that we must understand that the people are at the center of the story. Now, it might be even the same story. Let's look at it this way. So maybe, for example, you take the same story to a highly educated audience. The way you will frame that story should be different from you take the same identical story to some uneducated group of people. Because when you are speaking to the people, you need to size them up. What is their level of understanding? What kind of preamble? What kind of problem are you going to bring to explain your story? Because you cannot be the same everywhere, because people are not the same everywhere. Anyway, I just stop there so I can allow people to talk.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so I'm aware of time. So there are a few things that I came up with as I was thinking about this. And it's about problem solving and decision making is when we are sharing our stories. And exploring the challenges, the triumphs, the lessons learned from various industries, it is very beneficial because we love to read about, well, I do. I like to read about other people's stories, other industries, other companies, and exploring their challenges, their triumphs, lessons learned. And one of them is about problem solving. And you can examine the challenges that they faced. And that's going to offer you valuable insight as well, and looking into the effective problem solving strategies that they've used to build their business, which is very key. And then also another one is about avoiding pitfalls. We can't always avoid them, but we can look at ways to overcome when we do face challenges, because it's not about staying down, it's about getting up, which is the key thing, and persevering, pushing through, because that's how we are going to teach others who are coming up behind us that yes, we face pitfalls, yes, we have made mistakes. Even in my business, I've made mistakes and I've learned from them, and how do we move forward? And studying the lessons learned from these industries enables us to identify the common pitfalls, and then looking at the mistakes they've made and how they've overcome. And then it provides an opportunity to gain knowledge and understanding about the challenges that they've faced, and then maybe how to prevent it or how to move forward, what you need to put in place, which is very, very key. So those are some of the things when you're exploring the challenges, the triumphs, the lessons learned. So it can have many, many benefits. Like I've mentioned before, it can foster innovation, improve problem solving, avoiding mistakes. And this broad understanding of diverse industries can equip individuals and organizations with valuable knowledge and insights to contributing to their overall success.
All right. So, Dr. Marcia, what would be your final thought here to conclude the conversation? Yeah, time has finally come to where it is today. We have no way of holding it. So, of course, when the time calls, we need to respond. Please share with us briefly a concluding message from you.
My concluding message would be that many of the distortions that appear in storytelling and our unconscious blinders that are putting us because of our hidden and unstated assumptions that we have that control our thoughts because of how stories were told to us. If we practice the art of telling true stories in the ways that we know it, and from a place of discovery, understanding, awareness, and regulation, then our stories take root and cannot be questioned, because if we are true to ourselves, we cannot be false to any man.
Okay, I wanted to ask if I can quickly say something.
Yeah, please go.
Okay, so I'm really grateful to Tanya for inviting me for this session because I've actually learned a lot. And I just wanted to add something. There was something Tanya said about how using stories in our business, in our marketing to show we are human and connect to people. And I just wanted to add that one of the things we have to keep in mind is that when we are telling stories, we have to understand that our story is not for everyone. So we have to define who are those that will benefit from this story. Every story has an audience that is designed to benefit from it or to learn from it. And we also have to know that we can control the narrative. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the end goal we want to achieve from this story? How do we want for ourselves or for our readers? And then we'll control the narrative and then channel it towards that end goal that we have in mind for the people that story is meant for. And then about also having in mind that the way that we share our stories is how we build an emotional connection with other people. And that is what makes us relatable to people. That is what gives people hope. Whether we are using the story in business or in any other way, it shows people what is possible. And I think that's part of what makes storytelling really, really powerful.
That is where we're going to conclude the conversation today. And I really appreciate the participation of all of you in sharing your personal experiences, how you use story, and the importance of storytelling. Please keep on telling your story, because storytelling works, and it works almost all the time. Have a good time, and bye-bye for now.
Bye.